Hello, our little scammers, and welcome back to our first and only episode of Scams. Who? Me? With your hosts,
Hanna Alexander.
Tyree Dwight.
Samantha Kopaz.
and yours truly, Cordelia Wright.
Let's get right into it.
It takes 20 years to build a reputation and a few minutes of cyber incident to ruin it. Stefan Napo.
So, what are some types of threats? There are 7 main types of security threats. There's malware, emotet, denial of service, man-in-the-middle, phishing, SQL injection, and password attacks. The definition of malware is software that is specifically designed to disrupt, damage, or gain unauthorized access to a computer system, i.e., ransomware and viruses/worms. The definition of an emote is a Trojan that is primarily spread through spam emails, mouse spam. This infection may arrive either via malicious script, macro-enabled document files, and etc. The denial of service definition is the flooding of a computer network that creates it so an individual cannot complete a request. The definition of man-in-the-middle, hackers inserting themselves into a two-person party, phishing, as most of us know, creating a fake identity to lure people for dating websites, which we will discuss later on. SQL injection is inserting malicious codes into a network computer, and the definition of a password attack is social engineering to hack into passwords. So there are 10 security actions that you can do to protect your own internet. Consolidating, monitoring, and defending your internet gateway, patch and operating systems and applications, enforce the management of administrative privileges, segment and separate information, provide tailored training, protect information at enterprise level, apply protection at host level, isolate web-facing applications, and implement application allow lists. There are some statistics that we can look at, and these are from February of 2021. The percent of the population using social media by age group. There are 4 categories. The first one is 18 to 29 years old, and 84% of that population uses social media. 30 to 49 years old, 81% of that population uses social media. 50 to 64 is 73%, and the 65 plus is 45%. If we do some more investigation, we can look at gender. 78% of women use social media, while only 66% of men use social media. Education level is something we can also look at. Usually those who complete a high school or less, only 64% of them use social media. Some college, 76%, while most college graduates is 77% of the population.
A lot of people assume that even if they are a potentially good person, that they have nothing to hide and privacy doesn't really matter. But in a TED Talk called Why Privacy Matters by Glenn Greenwald, he discussed why, even if you are the best person out there, why privacy should matter to you and why you should value it. Greenwald states that in a 2010 interview with Mark Zuckerberg, he thought that privacy was no longer a social norm, but then later on purchased a house, and because he didn't want any neighbors, he purchased the 4 houses adjacent to him.
Really?
Yes, he did.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? I think that's just insane how you can tell your users that privacy doesn't matter and then do the exact opposite in your real daily life.
It just shows that privacy isn't a good thing anymore.
Yeah, and apparently it's not a social norm because you don't need it. But really, as a CEO of Facebook, I feel like you should be telling your clients that privacy does matter in order to ensure their safety. The same thing can be said with the CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, where he said, if you're doing something that you don't want other people to know, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. And as someone who is a CEO of such a large online company, you really should not be influencing your users in that way. Greenwald also moves on to make a very interesting point about how a lack of privacy is the ultimate form of obedience. And I think this is very interesting considering that our government, whether you want to believe it or not, is always surveilling us. They always have surveillance around us. It creates a prison in the mind, as Greenwald states. And it is a huge form of obedience because you are allowing such a large influence impact your life because you don't care, because you have nothing to hide, when in reality everyone should value their privacy because it's a human need, it's human necessity. So why are you just saying, well, I had nothing to hide, so it doesn't matter? Because it still does matter. People can still hack in and steal your data, your financial information, all of the sorts.
Going off of that, dating apps are a growing source of cyber attacks, and we continue to see huge breaches in privacy and stolen money from so-called online lovers. In 2020 alone, victims lost around $304 million from being swindled by what researchers call a cyber sweetheart, and these scams have gotten shiftier and shiftier over the years. They include fake online dating sites, which are underpopulated and filled with scammers, or photo scams, which are exchanging your photos for a payment, military romance scams, which is where someone pretends to be deployed and asking for money regarding military expenses, intimate activity scams, where you share intimate information and this is used as a threat against you unless you pay a certain amount of money, code verification scams, which is where you go through a second party and click a very realistic looking website and end up giving your credit card information out and getting scammed that way. Inheritance scams, which you're convinced that you need to marry your lover for your inheritance, and malware scams, which are illegitimate websites. So along this, dating websites see a rise in security breaches, but we also see a rise in security for children on the internet, particularly with the reach of pedophiles on social media. An estimated 89% of sexual advances directed at children occur in internet chat rooms or through instant messaging, and this includes Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, or even second-party messengers. And most pedophiles will reach out to children by bribery or initiating a friendship that will allow them to get close to these unsuspecting children. There are also an estimated 500,000 online predators active each day, and children between the ages 12 and 15 are especially susceptible to being groomed or manipulated by adults. And that's almost 25.1 million kids. Even more so, 58% of parents report being concerned about threats that strangers pose online.
Going off of that, another form of that is child grooming, specifically online grooming. It's when someone uses the internet to trick, force, or pressure a young person into doing something sexual, like sending a naked video or image of themselves. Someone who's grooming online will sometimes try to build their trust before doing anything sexual. It's not easy to know if someone is trying to groom you, but no matter what's happening, it is very dangerous. Anyone can groom another person. Grooming is when someone makes an emotional connection to try to make you do things, like having sexual conversations online, or doing something sexual like on a webcam. Sometimes they will even meet them up in person. Since this is online and you don't really know who this person is, it is really good for them to lie about who they are, which makes it difficult to know if this person is an online friend or just a stranger. They'll send you lots of messages, and oftentimes they'll try to find out more about you. And sometimes if they feel like the child is suspecting them that they're wrong, they will try to blackmail you. Many examples include telling everyone that you were coming onto them, and so on and so forth.
Overall, privacy affects anyone and everyone, not just those who are suspected criminals or terrorists. It can also affect children, like very innocent children who use online platforms.
As said, the lack of online privacy can be defined as how secure your financial, personal, and browsing data remains private online. It also includes how one can hack personal information without detection or many ramifications due to the constantly adapting sphere of technology. So coming from a time where computers and phones have become all the rage ever since we were younger, I can personally say that grooming and privacy is definitely something that needs to be more talked about. Even little things like the Minecraft, like predators use Minecraft. I guess now it's more Roblox, but these predators will purposely go on these websites or platforms that are meant for kids, and they'll do anything in their power to groom these kids, to get these kids to talk to them. And it's sad how little CEOs or presidents of these big companies seem to care. I mean, I'm sure any of us in this group can attest that at one point in our life as a kid, we were groomed by an older adult.
Oh, definitely.
Hannah.
Yes. Touching on how CEOs don't care about the privacy of their clients. Like, even with Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg has been under so much hate and just, like, heat for obviously not caring about the privacy of Facebook users, but then going out and saying that privacy should no longer be a social norm and it doesn't even matter. Like, how does that make any sense? Like, we do need to touch on the subject a lot more, considering that nobody seems to care about their privacy.
In conclusion, I think that privacy is something that parents need to sit down and talk to their kids about, like, talking, even if it's just saying, like, in stressing the fact that don't talk to strangers. If somebody messages you, don't talk to them unless mom or dad or your caregiver can approve of this, and just not falling for some of the scams that you find, like emails.
Yeah, like, I think people forget that just because you're online doesn't mean you're safe from any harm. Like, people just don't realize that there's still a lot of harm that can come your way from the lack of online privacy.
Yeah, and it seems like such a simple task, just messaging out to someone who reaches out, but in the end it could severely impact your life. So,
and take the time to contact, like, IT, or even just researching on your own safe ways to keep yourself safe and anything like that. But with all of that, I think that concludes our episode of Scams. Ooh.
Said to me, I don't really worry about invasions of privacy because I don't have anything to hide. I always say the same thing to them. I get out a pen, I write down my email address, I say, here's my email address. What I want you to do when you get home is email me the passwords to all of your email accounts. Not just the nice, respectable work one in your name, but all of them. Because I want to be able to just troll through what it is you're doing online, read what I want to read, and publish whatever I find interesting. After all, if you're not a bad person, if you're doing nothing wrong, you should have nothing to hide. Not a single person has taken me up on that offer.